hearts are pounding in Denver.
This is Something Broncos.
This one's for Pat. It is caught. Touchdown, Moses.
Elam's kick.
It is good. Down the sideline.
53 yards.
Stokely. Wow. Davis into the end zone, rocking, standing up. Touchdown. Denver's going to win it.
Bailey taken off.
Oh, baby, they're going to win this thing. Unbelievable.
Featuring
And here he is.
Mike DeSico and Jess Place.
Having the time of his life.
Welcome to Something Broncos.
Oh my God.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to, I guess, Something Broncos. I wanted to do that for the post-game show, but it's not really a post-game show. It's not really Something Broncos. This is a draft recap, Day 3, 2026 NFL Draft. Joining me today, Lori Lattimore of Oakland and Christopher Hart of MileHighReport.com, your one-stop shop for all your draft information. Chris, are you okay? Are you tired? Can we get you something to eat? Do you need a blanket, a hug? What? Are you okay? You've almost made it through. We got just the undrafted free agents tomorrow. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm tired. It's been a busy past 3 days. It's been a busy month, but I appreciate everyone who's tuned into the podcast or checked out MileHighReport.com to see. I can't even speak right. I'm so tired. That's check this out and came to Mile High Report for all your draft coverage. The draft's always fun. It's always busy. It's always wild. And today was another fun day. The Broncos made a lot of picks, and we're actually seeing a lot of the UDFA signings rolling in right now. So, I mean, yeah, it's been quite the past 72 hours, but it's still fun. I love the draft. It's my thing.
Lori, what do you think? Like, was it the draft a draft for the ages for you? Is this a memorable draft? It was kind of weird, wasn't it?
Yeah, actually, I do think it'll be memorable, but not because it was like a super exciting draft to begin with, but because it was kind of an exciting draft near the end. And obviously, we didn't have a first round pick, but we have Jalen Waddle, and I think everyone in Broncos country, you almost forget that. You almost need to consider him our first round pick. And that's a huge steal. And then we wait around a little bit. And I think the jury now is in that with Onyedem, that's a pretty good pick. It's a solid pick. It's going to be a smart pick. And when you look at what we added today, I'm excited. Chris can weigh in on really how good these players are, but just kind of hearing the analysis on them, looking at some of their tape and thinking about the positions that we drafted that are all positions that will be really useful in our locker room, I think it's fun. And we have a guy named Red Murdoch. I love that name.
Oh, Red! That's going to be fun to yell. I mean, go Red! Red, do it! Get there, do it! I don't know. I'm already kind of planning out my cheers going into the season. It's a process. We will get there. We hit some highs when we had Ebenezer Ekuban on the team. That was pretty fun cheering for him. So I just have to get to that level with these guys. So Chris, walk us through it. Tell us about Day 3.
Okay, yeah. So, George Payton had said the other day during his post-day 2 press conference that the fourth round, was going to be the 2 fourth-round picks were going to be like a defining moment for their draft. We had talked on the show, and I think maybe it manifested here that Jonah Coleman out of Washington would be a great selection for the Broncos at running back. Obviously, R.J. Harvey had a productive rookie campaign last year with 12 touchdowns, and J.K. Dobbins looked good before going down with injury. But the Broncos needed another running back in their stable just in case something were to happen to either of them. Jonah Coleman was one of my favorite prospects in the entire draft for the Broncos, and he was the pick for them at 108. He's a 3-down back in my opinion, but obviously he's probably not going to get a significant amount of playing time as a rookie. What sets him apart compared to a lot of other running backs in this class is the fact that he doesn't fumble the ball. I think one career fumble on like 700 touches, which is really, really good.
Wow.
He had 34 touchdowns as a running back, so he's got a nose for the end zone. A a lot of people drew comparisons to like Maurice Jones-Drew or a Doug Martin or I'm trying to think. David Montgomery was someone I think Cecil Lammey had talked to, but I'm trying to think of like more Broncos-centric comparisons for him, and I like to think C.J. Anderson a little bit. Probably a little bit more upside and potential as than C.J. Anderson, but you think of those guys both like the same size, like 5'8", 5'9", 220, 225 pounds, like bowling balls, really compact runners with incredible vision that are really hard to break down and force a lot of missed tackles. I think, a few years down the road when we look at that selection, compared to some of the other running backs in this class, that he's probably in the best situation to succeed and be one of the most productive running backs in this class. I mean, there were only a couple that were taken. I mean, it was the the Notre Dame duo of Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price went in round one. But then it was towards the end of the third round where Kalen Black from Indiana went to the 49ers. So we'll see how Coleman does, but that was their pick at 108. I don't know if either of you want to chime in on it, but I was really a fan of that pick. I mean, it's one of those things in the draft. You don't have to draft a running back high to get a player who can have a good impact, but I was really worried that, after they had picked an Onyedim yesterday, that he wasn't going to last to 8, but he did. So I think that's a fantastic selection for them.
I was just relieved that he was somebody that was talked about possibly going to the Broncos, and he went to the Broncos. And so as a casual draftnik, full disclosure, I am not Chris. I am Chris and his knowledge of the draft. It's just comforting to see that someone that was talked about came to us. And so I felt like we won. And so is that valid, Chris? Is that okay to feel that way?
It's perfectly okay to feel that way, and I'm really glad that the Broncos made several of the selections that they did. I mean, I don't like talking trash or what you see on Twitter or whatever, but there were a lot of people that were cooking up like these conspiracies that the Broncos don't pick people off their 30 visits because they just want to use them as smoke screens, coming up with all these certain ideas as to why the Broncos purposely use their top 30 visits to avoid players in the draft. Well, today they took Jonah Coleman, Justin Jolie, and I believe who else did they take that they had in for a 30 visit? Miles Scott, the defensive back out of Illinois, was a 30 visit for them as well. And some of the others might have been too, but those are 3 confirmed people that they had that they brought in for visits and they ended up picking. And I think I don't want people to think, just because they didn't draft someone doesn't mean they were interested. There are 31 other teams that are picking. There's like a 0.5% shot that any prospect is picked for any team in the draft. But in this draft, with Denver not having that first round pick or that third round pick because they traded for Jalen Waddle, it's not surprising to see them have an emphasis on taking guys that they did a little bit more work on, that they were really diligent and talking to throughout the whole entire process. So obviously, the 30 visits, when you're kind of short on draft picks, especially premium selections, it's going to matter a whole lot more than maybe years where you have 10 or 11 selections because they only had a small amount of selections and they were able to get some more. But they made the most of their opportunities in this draft with who they picked. So I was excited about that. I guess we should probably keep going through the list, talking about the other people.
Let's do it. Johnny Cage.
One prospect that I was supposed to do a profile on, but we got through 55 and I just didn't have time. Ross Allen, our offensive line guru and one of our analysts at Mile High Report, was really high on Boise State left tackle Cage Casey throughout the entire process. I mean, he's an Idaho guy. He's a Boise State fan. But you look at Cage Casey, and he was a 3-year starter for the Broncos at left tackle. He is a good athlete. He didn't test that well during the pre-draft process, but when you watch his tape, Boise State is one of those teams that likes to execute the wide zone scheme, a lot of zone running concepts. So you see him going to the second level and getting up the field and blocking for his running backs. I really think that he will make the transition to guard in the NFL. He has like 32-inch arms, which is a little bit shorter. But he didn't allow a whole lot of sacks and allow a whole lot of sacks in college. But I think his best aspect of his game is as being a run defender. And if he kicks inside the left guard, I think that's going to really help his case to be a long-term starter in the NFL. One of the things that I wrote about today when talking about him is that Boise State averaged 6 yards per carry running behind him the last 2 seasons, which is incredible. I mean, we're used to having running backs over the past couple of years that average like 3 yards per carry. So, I mean, 6 is really good. So I think this is Ben Powers last year with the team. I would be surprised if the team moved on from Ben Powers because you can never have too many offensive linemen. But Cage Casey's going to be there battling Alex Palczewski for that swing tackle spot. I would assume that both of them make the final roster along with Frank Crum. Like we had talked about on the show the other night, the Broncos are always interested in fortifying the trenches. I think that their top pick with Onyedum yesterday signifies that, and bringing in Cage Casey to help their offensive line is another project for Zach Streif to coach up, and hopefully he's someone that can contribute and be a starter down the road. But the Broncos don't need him to start right now. They're pretty loaded on the offensive front, but kind of addressing those needs maybe a year or two before they really happen is a smart idea given how strong this roster is. So I was a fan of that pick as well. Probably maybe a couple other like pure offensive tackles that could have stuck at left tackle that I might have liked. Drew Shelton went to the Cowboys, I think the next pick after that. But overall, getting Coleman and Casey in the 4th round is pretty darn good in my opinion.
Laura, you have any thoughts on Cage Casey?
Only that I totally believe it's true that you have got to fortify your trenches all the time as much as you can. So, we don't often do it in an early round of the Broncos. It turns out the one we did a few years ago has turned out to be one of our best offensive linemen, but you just can't undervalue or maybe overvalue how important these guys are. So, bringing someone in who you can bring along and be a starter, love it.
Yeah, I didn't do the full count. I haven't done like a position group breakdown, but a lot went on day 3. I wouldn't be surprised. What was there? 257 picks in the draft. At least 40 of them were offensive line. I mean, their teams are always looking for guys to keep their trenches strong. So I'm ecstatic that the Broncos were able to address that in the 4th round.
No.
Uh-oh. Is Copper getting in the draft?
The dog is excited about the draft too. I mean,
I think he wants to make sure we all understand how important the offensive line is.
He's digging a trench right now.
Trenches are important. Sure.
Yeah. Oh. Well, you want to keep going? Tight end Justin Joly, NC State.
Yeah, so the Broncos, and the big thing that people were complaining about on Twitter and social media the past couple of days was, people weren't really stoked that the Broncos brought back their whole entire tight end room from last season. But with continuity and familiarity and just knowing the offense and that sort of thing, it really makes sense that they did that. But the Broncos country fans were really hoping that at some point in the draft that the Broncos were going to address the tight end position. And that's what they did. They had traded from 170 and 182 to move up into the early mid portion of the 5th round to take NC State product. Justin Joly, he is arguably one of the more productive tight ends in this class. There's been so many tight ends that went before had Denver even had a chance to pick them. But you were seeing guys like in the late 2nd round or in the 3rd round that might have had only like 20 or 25 career catches. But the past 2 seasons for the Wolfpack, he had over 40 receptions each season, and I think between both seasons had like 11 touchdowns. Like Sean Payton had said in his post-draft press conference, he's more of a move tight end, one of those F tight ends, not an inline guy, but someone that you can put out in space and on the move, big slot, stuff like that, and make some strides in the receiving game. I like him as a player. I think it's good value for him in the 5th round. My only concern is he is a marginal athlete. He's not like an explosive playmaker, but he only has 1 drop in college. So when you get the ball his way, he's going to come down with it, which was obviously a problem for our skill position group players last year. So he's going to make the most of his opportunities. I'm just not too sure how much playing time he's going to get this year. It might be one of those things that, they did bring back little Jordan Humphrey, who was kind of in that hybrid role as well. Maybe he'll eventually steal snaps from him. But I think you're looking at the heir to Evan Ingram with the selection of Joly here. Probably not going to make a huge impact right away as a rookie, but you never know. He could surprise. So I was a fan of that selection based on his production and the fact that it addresses a long-term need. Like, they didn't have really anyone behind Evan Ingram who can do that sort of thing. So to get him in the 5th round, pretty good. Dane Brugler, probably the most well-respected draft analyst out there, had him ranked as the 87th player overall. So to get him at 150 seems like quite a good value. So yeah, we'll take that in Denver too.
Well, this is an example of I heard that he might come to Denver, and he did, and so I was happy. I was elated, and you know what? That when it happened, Mike DeSico texted me. I was at a baseball game, and he texted me, and he's like, "I am so happy we got this guy," and so I'm very happy for Mike. So Mike, this is for you, bud.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it makes up for Eli Heidenreich going to the Steelers like a couple of rounds later. I know that was the dream for both you and Mike, but it didn't happen. But the Broncos got a bunch of other good players in the draft that should make you happy. We have to focus on the people that are going to help our team win, not bad guys on other teams. Jess.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I don't even know who this Heidenreich guy is. I mean, really. All right, we'll keep going. What about in the 7th round? 7th round was kind of our round this year.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I'll just say that during the break in selections from the 5th to 7th round, I was in a group chat with the Mile High Report team, just saying, like, trade up, dude. Like, let's just get this over with. It's been a long weekend or whatever. But lo and behold, like, I'm glad they did not trade up and use all those 3 picks to go and get one of my favorite targets. I talked about maybe Jalen Kilgore, the defensive back out of South Carolina, but I think they really maximized their opportunities in the 7th round. The first player that they drafted was Miles Scott, who was a safety from Illinois. This continues the Broncos trend in dating back 3 years, that in the subsequent draft, they take a teammate from someone they had drafted the year prior. And with Miles Scott, his teammate and his connection, obviously there was Pat Bryant. The interesting tidbit with this is that both of those guys were recruited and coached by Jim Leonard, who is now with the Buffalo Bills, but they were both wide receivers at Illinois to start their careers. But 2 years into his time at the Illini, Scott had actually transitioned to become a defensive back, and it really paid off. I mean, he had 7 interceptions the past 3 seasons, and 2 of those were returned for touchdowns. I think we all loved Talanoa Hufanga as a free agent signing last year, but I can't even count. There's probably more fingers than, he probably dropped like 12 interceptions last year. I mean, he was making a lot of plays, but maybe this kid can come in and teach him how to catch the balls that come his way. So I'm really impressed by his ball skills. He was also the green dot communicator for the Illini's defense, which is a really important thing that the team emphasizes. I mean, football is just not about going out there and hitting people. Like, you have to communicate as well, and that's something that the coaching staff obviously values a great deal. So that was a little bit of a surprise pick to me. One of the players that I had talked about on the podcast was Bishop Fitzgerald, who was a safety out of USC that Doug Belk, our defensive backs coach, had coached at the Trojans. I thought he'd be a great fit, and they're kind of similar players, but they went with Scott instead. I wonder who got the final say on that one. I don't know if it was Joseph, if it was Livingston, if it was Belk. Heck, even Kareem Jackson has been an area scout for us, so maybe there was input on that. And obviously, Jim Leonard, even though he's not with the team, probably had a little bit of inside intel on them because he was a coach of his and part of the recruiting process. So that's just one of those things when it comes to 7th round picks. You're looking at coaching connections. You're also looking at, bringing in teammates, things like that. So obviously the Broncos don't need immediate help at safety, but with Brandon Jones, JL Skinner, and Tyson Anderson being free agents, they need someone for the future. So I guess it's really nice that they were able to get a developmental prospect at, I believe he's going to be more of a free safety in the NFL, so we'll see there, but he has a lot of experience as well. I'm kind of rambling here, but interesting selection. Makes sense to me. Can't really cry about it. It's the 246th pick in the NFL draft. Like, at that point in time, you're just hoping that who you bring in can eventually make a difference. And I think, all things considered, being teammates with Pat Bryant and Alex Palczewski and just some familiarity there will help him as he begins his pro journey in the Mile High City.
Yeah, and Sean Payton said, like, his comment during his press conference after the draft was he felt like, Miles Scott, you can't tell that he's only played the position for a couple of years, and felt like he was really impressive. And George Payton highlighted his ball skills. So I think they're pretty high on him, even though obviously it's a 7th round pick and it's a depth player right now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and that's a good point. Like you look at some of the other defensive drafts back. I mean, one of the things that when I try to look at prospects is guys who take the ball away. It's such a rare thing. Like you can be a shutdown corner or something like that, but like the difference is being able to generate those turnovers. And we all remember towards the end of the season, Sean Payton being just emphatic about like, hey, like our defense is good, but our defense is not generating turnovers, and that needs to change. So he's a 7th-round pick. He's only played safety for 3 years, but he had 7 interceptions, and 2 of those went for touchdowns. Like clearly his prior experience as a wide receiver kind of gives him a familiarity of what to expect in coverage and being able to read route trees and what's going on in front of him. So, yeah, I mean, we could look a couple of years down the road and be like, man, dang, that was a really good pick. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how it pans out. But I think in the 7th round, you can't really ask for much more than that. So it's just a throw at the dartboard. We'll see how it pans out.
Gotta have those darts. At 256, they threw a dart and hit a tight end. The second one of the draft.
Another Utah tight end. Yeah. Dallin Bentley, man. There were a lot of people that thought he was going in the 5th round. He started out his collegiate career at Snow College, which is a junior college. But then he had transferred to Utah, and he had spent some time away from football doing like LES mission type stuff. But he was a reserve player for like the first 2 seasons he was at Utah. But this last year, he finally was able to be a starter, and he was extremely productive. I think he had 7 touchdowns, like 40 receptions, 600 and some yards. I mean, he was a pretty productive player. He was, I think, one of he came out as the 5th most athletic tight end at the combine as far as, you know, the agility drills and the 40-yard dash time went. He's got great size. I think he's like 6'5", 245, ran like a 4.62. So that's NFL ready size. But the big drawback with him is, it's a good thing. He profiles as a traditional wide tight end as opposed to Jolie, who's more of a F move tight end. But this guy is just all receiving skill right now. Like being able to trust him as a blocker is just something that you can't do, but that's okay. It's the 7th round. You're betting on traits like Peyton and I'd said the other day. That's what they're looking to develop. So he's got premier receiving ability, but is not going to do much in the way of run blocking. But yeah, they took Caleb Lohner last year, like roughly at the similar spot. So the Broncos Utah pipeline is it's well established. It's one of the colleges, since it's local, that they go. It's easy to have connections there and scout talent. So he was their second to last pick in the draft, and I don't have another problem. I don't have a problem with them adding to the tight end room there. It might be a little bit overkill since they had brought everybody back, but I mean, shooting their shot on another tight end, we'll have to wait and see. But now that they've drafted 2 in this draft, you're hoping that one of them can eventually be a starter for the team in some capacity. So that's the dream. So I don't necessarily mind it at all. I maybe would have preferred a couple different players at that selection, but not too shabby in my opinion.
The Broncos pointed out that that Bentley was a semifinalist for the John Mackey Award, which seems like a really big deal. Isn't that the best tight end in college? Like, yeah. I realize, every school, but it's interesting to me, like, that if he's a finalist for that, a lot of people clearly thought he was pretty good. So to be a 7th round pick feels like a steal to me.
Yeah, I think there was some point, it might have been his sophomore season, like he had a really bad knee injury or like a Achilles injury or something like that. I think that's why he didn't play so much one of those years.
Yeah,
it's not necessarily a long-term concern or whatever, but that's probably the reason for a limited impact relative to his earlier career transitioning from junior college to, a full-fledged FBS program. But obviously he has the traits, and that's what you're betting on this late in the draft. So yeah, we'll see where that goes.
Well, and then that brings us to Mr. Irrelevant. I kind of like it when we have Mr. Irrelevant.
I do too.
I don't know what, it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's a big deal for Mr. Irrelevant, and I guess this lady who is a CEO of it. I didn't know that you could be a CEO of Mr. Irrelevant, but she is. She announced the pick. Good for her. Like, working it.
I think he gets like a free trip to Disney World or Disneyland, whichever one's in Florida. I've never been to either of them, so I think he gets a free trip for that, for being Mr. Relevant.
Well, in a parade, right? Doesn't he get like it's like a town in California, like Southern California? Like,
they're just gonna probably give him an island off the coast of Florida or something. Like, here you go, man. Like, you're Mr. Relevant. You get your own island now. No, that'd be cool. But yeah, this was actually the first time in NFL history that one team had the last 2 picks in the draft. Like, who would have guessed after all these drafts and all these years that was the first time a team had the last 2 picks? But like, cool. Like, the Broncos made history today just by virtue of that. But yeah, Red Murdoch, man, out of Buffalo. I was just kind of beside myself on the podcast with you guys the other night, knowing that we had missed out on CJ Allen and Anthony Hill Jr. and Jacob Rodriguez and all my other favorite linebackers.
Stowers. We also missed out on Stowers.
Yeah. Well, tight end. But yeah, I mean, but Scotty, early on in the pre-draft process, when we were kind of trying to identify day 3 fits for the Broncos, is like, this Red Murdoch guy is just killing it out there. I think he has over 2,700 career defensive snaps, 17 forced fumbles playing in Buffalo, 17 forced fumbles, guys. Like, just, if you're looking at prospects, at the linebacker position, it's like, okay, do they force turnovers? Like, if you see like a 2 or a 3 next to their name in that category, it's like, okay, yeah, this guy's a playmaker. He's forcing turnovers, 17 forced fumbles in 4 years of college. That's unreal.
Which is the NCAA record, by the way, is 17.
And NCAA record. Like, that is uncanny production. Over 300. He was a 2-year starter. He started half of his sophomore season, but the last 2 years, over 300 tackles, like a 90 grade in run support. I've been kind of talking to some other Broncos friends, not at Mile High Report, just, doing the old phone thing, like during the draft. And, people think of linebackers in Broncos history. He kind of has the build and the speed and the range of Ian Gold, if you remember Ian Gold. When he was
remember Ian Gold.
I mean, he was here twice, but I mean, I think of Ian Gold when he was with Al Wilson and DJ Williams, and that was when Larry Coyer was defensive coordinator, and they just had all that speed on defense in that 2025 season. So, someone who just has the ability to make plays wherever he goes, and he's a violent hitter, man. Like, he knocks people the bleep out. Like, this is a great pick for Denver. Obviously, Alex Singleton's going to be the starter this year. He's their green dot communicator. As much as people might complain about his inability to cover people, I mean, he's just been a reliable pro for the most part for Denver, and just a standout person in the community and what he does for people outside of the locker room. And they brought back Justin Strnad. They're going to try with Jonah Ellis here, maybe just like his brother Caden. Caden was someone that Sean Payton had drafted in New Orleans when he was with Mickey Loomis and the Saints. So they're kind of taking the Caden Ellis blueprint that you see in Atlanta now, as being a guy who can play outside and inside as well. But after that, so that's 3 linebackers. You're going to need 4 or 5 to compete. They've got Kareem Reed, they've got Jordan Turner, they've got Lavelle Bailey, and now they've got Red Murdoch to come in there and compete for that 4th spot. I think I'm forgetting Drew Sanders, but I think they mentioned the other day that he's going back to edge. So I don't even think he makes the team. But to get a player, I mean, stats are just stats, but like, to get a player with 17 forced fumbles and 300 tackles with the last pick in the draft, like, if you didn't know anything about this guy, you didn't know his name, but then someone handed you a sheet of paper with his accolades and his production, you'd be like, holy shit, this guy's going in the 1st round. Well, we got him in the last pick of the draft. Who knows how he'll turn out? But the fact that they were able to address linebacker with a team captain, intelligent guy who's going to go out there and give it his all, like, that's pretty awesome. So I'm really happy with that pick. You're muted, Jess. Whoops.
I'm back. I got all excited. My son wandered downstairs and started talking to me, so I thought I'd save everybody from that. But actually, I just saved you from my commentary. My apologies. That is the end of the draft, right? It's 257 picks, and now it's all over, right? There's nothing left to happen except for the undrafted.
Everybody like trying to bid the highest to bring in all these undrafted free agents to their team. I think, what did Denver have, like 7 or whatever? They have room for like 10 or 11 more undrafted free agents. And based on Scotty's handy work on our handy dandy Denver Broncos undrafted free agent tracker at milehighreport.com. It looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or 11. And that's what Mike Kliss said, like 10 or 11 guys are coming. I think that they've already brought all these guys in. I think that they're probably done now. Maybe.
Sometimes they swap out or add like right before the deadline, right? Isn't there like usually some like massaging that takes place?
Well, I mean, there are certain amounts that, like, you can like give them fully guaranteed contracts if you want to. Like one of the first ones to sign was a quarterback out of Georgia Tech, and he signed like for $250,000 like guaranteed. So like technically that's better than what some of the 7th round draft picks are going to get. So yeah, it's not uncommon to see like someone be like, oh yeah, I'm going to come play for you, Denver Broncos. Well, no, I'm not, because the Vikings just offered me like $20,000 more. I'm going to Minnesota. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts at play with this sort of thing. Obviously there's, teams are going to be working the phones well into tomorrow to try to figure that out on who they're going to bring in. But I don't know a whole lot about any of these guys. I feel comfortable every year probably with like 30 to 50 targets that I specifically look at for the Broncos, feeling good about. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I don't know anything about Nebraska edge rusher Deshaun McCullough. Nebraska wide receiver Dane Key. He is Devon Key's brother. He was actually started out his collegiate career at Kentucky, and he was like one of the first like freshmen to like walk on and actually start for them. But then he eventually transferred to Nebraska. So the Broncos did a really cool thing and reunited brothers so that they can potentially play together in the NFL. Virginia wide receiver Cam Ross, I don't know a whole lot about. I kind of did the Cliff Notes thing before the podcast. He seems like he profiles as a Marvin Mims type receiver, similar size, speed ratio. Also a really good collegiate returner. I think he was like first team all ACC return specialist this year and like third team last year. So that's a cool thing. Laurie will be happy. I don't really know anything about him, but they brought in Tyler Miller, the right tackle out of Iowa State. So that's another Cyclone added into the mix.
We have a lot, like 3 or 4, I feel like.
And see, I don't know why that would be, but I do know that Scott DeStefano has been the organization's Midwestern area scout for 3 decades now. This goes back to, this is back to the Mike Shanahan and Ted Sundquist era of Broncos. Like, I mean, we're talking 1990. So this guy has been around for a long time, has a lot of connections. When I see all these players coming out of like the Big Ten and that sort of area, I'd like to think with him being the Midwestern guy for a really long time, that it's probably one of those things that he was able to identify some of those connections. Obviously, we've got position coaches, and Zach Streif has a profile of what he likes in there. But yeah, the Broncos got in another offensive lineman to develop, probably a long shot to make the team, but you need those guys on your practice squad. So that's interesting.
I'm really excited about the next one. This is going to be fun. I hope he makes the team.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this kid, but his name is Jess. Go
ahead.
I'm going to skip to the
next. His name is Joseph Manjack IV, which means there were 3 Manjacks ahead of him. All right, Chris, tell us all about him.
I have no idea.
He loves his name.
I think he played for like USC. I think he transferred and then he was at TCU. I think he's more in the mold of like a big bodied, like wide receiver, maybe a big slot type guy. Seems to have decent production, but I can tell you, like, there's at no point during this entire process that I turned on Jack Manjack IV tape. Like, just was not happening. He was someone that was reported that the Broncos, I can't think of what might have been Aaron Wilson. He's one of the kind of the premier UDFA guys, like always doing the work on that sort of thing and doing reports on that, had said a couple of weeks ago prior to the draft that he had someone that the Broncos had done a lot of diligence on. So it's not a surprise to see them add another wide receiver to come in and compete. Sean Payton loves wide receivers. He likes big physical wide receivers with a large catch radius. He certainly has that. But the next player I'll talk about, and I was going to do a profile on him too, but we burned through so many linebackers, I just didn't have a chance. Texas A&M standout linebacker Torian York. he's undersized like Red Murdoch is, but that dude is always around the ball, really physical, making a lot of tackles, really good downhill. It'll be fun to see who wins that competition. Obviously, they've got Jordan Turner, Lavelle Bailey, and Kareem Reed and all those other guys. But I was reading something on social media. It was a video I think Lori had posted in the group chat of Torian York kind of getting the call at the end of it that he was going to come to Denver. And I think that he must have pointed out to Sean Payton, like, I thought you were going to draft me, but you didn't. Like, it's going to be one of those things, like, he's got a fire lit underneath his ass now because he thought he was going to be picked and they picked Red Murdoch instead. Like, he is going to give it his all. That Texas A&M defense and off, that team was loaded this year with talent. There were a lot of people that had him ranked like as a top 150 player, maybe even a 4th round player. But obviously, teams really value size at the linebacker position. You need those big guys to be able to cover these tight ends that are just getting bigger and bigger every year. But if you want a player who's been extremely productive and reliable during his time in college, like Torian York as an undrafted free agent is probably going to be one of the better signings of any team. Like, I'm sure that there had to have been a lot of other teams in the mix, but he chose Denver. Obviously, Texas isn't too far away, so I'm interested to see how that plays out. And then the last couple, let's do the refresh here on the old computer and see. Okay, they're adding more. Like, Scotty has multiple names more. Georgia Tech cornerback Amari Harvey. I don't know who that is. Weber State OL offensive lineman Gavin Ortega. Don't know. Charlotte wide receiver Sean Brown. Don't know. Oregon long snapper Luke Basso. Don't know.
Long snapper? Did I hear a long snapper?
Yeah,
I'm so excited about the long snappers.
Yeah, yes, in fact, Scotty and me both highlighted your name in the chat room for you to notice that we got a long snapper.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to get that profile done. That's who it is.
Have you signed up for it already? July 15th.
No, the ironic thing is I never sign up, and yet I always get the long snapper. So here we go. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Keep your eyes peeled for it over at milehighreport.com.
And then Northern Arizona wide receiver and kick returner Colby Katsis. Never heard of that guy in my entire life. Cool, I guess.
I was a big fan of his in the Hunger Games.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously they're with that. I mean, wide receiver, kick returner. So we don't know if the Broncos are going to be able to extend Marvin Mims. I sure would hope so. I think he's been a great player for the team. I think that given his lack of prowess as a wide receiver, mostly due to lack of opportunities, they could probably dial him in on extension at an affordable rate, but it might be one of those situations to where he wants to eventually go to another team to kind of get more opportunities as a wide receiver. So they're bringing in a couple of guys as UDFAs that can come in and compete for that second return slot, on kickoffs and potentially maybe, take over as a returner. And then Cal cornerback Brent Austin and Tennessee cornerback Will Wright. I have nothing for you guys on there. I'm sorry. It looks,
well, we've got nothing.
Right. So the Broncos now, every draft that Peyton's been a part of, they've drafted defensive back with Miles Scott getting picked in the 7th round. That continues. So I think that puts his streak up to 12 or 13 defensive backs in the 5 or 6 drafts he's been with the team. But obviously, one of the big question marks for the team moving forward with the Broncos is the contract situations with Riley Moss and Jaquan McMillan. Obviously, phenomenal players for the team. I think that they're 2 players that the fan base really underrates a great deal. Obviously, they had selected Jahdae Barron in the 1st round last year. He didn't play much as a rookie, but he's got positional versatility. I was the Jim Thorpe Award winner. I mean, that's the best defensive back in college football. I don't worry about it. He's going to eventually be a really good player for the team. He can't help that Jaquan McMillan, after he got picked, was like, I'm going to play my heart out and I'm just going to beat this guy. I don't care if he's a 1st rounder and that was undrafted. And that's exactly what you did. And you want players with that mentality on your team. But we're running into a situation where Bo Nix is eventually going to get mega bucks on an extension. They've got several other young players that will eventually need to be extended as well. And that includes McMillan and Moss. So, do whatever you can in UDFA or late in drafts to try to find corners that you can develop. It's a very pass-happy league. You can never have too many cornerbacks. So it looks like They're trying to get a couple more developmental guys, as they do every year, to compete in that secondary. The odds of either of these guys making the team are probably, I mean, the chances is probably zero because it's absolutely loaded at the position. But they'll get to come in and compete during the spring and camp, training camp, all that jazz, and maybe they'll stick around on the practice squad. So all in all, I think the Broncos had a really successful draft on paper. We can't really, I mean, draft grades are always funny, but on paper, this, including the Waddle trade, I think the Broncos knocked it out of the park. And we'll have to wait for a couple of years to know how they performed and how these prospects developed a couple of years into their careers. But as far as addressing needs, man, everyone Broncos country, come on, Sean Payton, make a move. We want you to do something. Boom, Jalen Waddle, they got a wide receiver. Another pass rusher and developmental defensive line prospect to offset the loss of John Franklin Myers. Onyedem is going to compete with Savion Jones for that 5th spot on the Broncos defensive line. Getting a running back, Jonah Coleman, that's huge. Justin Jolie at tight end, getting F tight end potential replacement for Ingram. Awesome. Cage Casey, offensive lineman, thinking ahead of time, 1 year down the road again with the selection, probably going to be a Ben Powers replacement. Smart thinking. And we just talked, and I've rambled on for like the last 20 minutes about these 7th round guys, getting guys at positions they needed depth at, that they can come in and compete. So I don't think you could really do much better when you didn't have a 1st round pick or a 3rd round pick. So all things considered, I'm pretty happy with the Broncos draft class. I'm excited to see how it pans out. I'm even excited for 2027 NFL draft. That's going to be coming up next April, 360 days away.
You got to start studying, Chris.
Well, dude, I love college football. I will, but it's like I'm going to try to take the time to digest this one. The Broncos do have 10 picks next year, so we'll see what they do. I'm just really happy. I guess I'll try to end my part here on this, and I'll let you two guys chat it up because I feel like I've been just hogging the airwaves here.
Not at all.
You keep going.
I'm waiting. When is George Payton going to get his gosh dang extension, man? Like, he's been crushing it. Like, sure, the Russell Wilson snafu and the Nathaniel Hackett stuff, like, those are like cardinal sins that are almost unforgettable. But with him and Sean Payton's working rapport, like how dude, we were in the doldrums, like the cellar of the AFC West after this catatonic from experiencing what we did in the 1 year that Nathaniel Hackett was here, like kind of like the Josh McDaniels experience. But these two clearly have a great working relationship. They clearly see eye to eye for the most part on the vision that they're going to want to build this culture, the franchise, who they're going after. And they haven't had premier draft capital for several of the drafts that they've had together, especially because we had to trade a 1st round pick for Sean Payton to get him to coach the team. But I think that George has done a really good job at player evaluation. He's just been a great communicator. And I think he's done just an excellent job navigating this process, especially this year without having 2 premium picks. So, when these picks were rolling in, this day 3 ended up being like, wow, dude, like this has been a good day on paper for the Broncos. I'm just wondering, like, when are they going to extend the guy? Like, you can't let him leave. Like,
is this his last year?
Yeah, he's in his contract. Like, this is his last year of his contract that he originally signed with the Broncos. And, obviously they had kind of talked about it, like at the combine, like Sean Payton says, like, dude, they just need to get it done. Like, you haven't really heard Sean Payton say anything to ownership other than just the glowing praise for the Walton Penner Group and all the awesome stuff that they've done since, acquiring, buying the team. And, hats off to them. Like, they're doing everything right. Now the Broncos are a destination once more where players want to go to. Like, we're a winning franchise. We're building an awesome new stadium. We're going to have like a $250 million new facility where you get to do what you do to train for football and have fun. Like, I want George Payton extended just because he's been an integral part of the Broncos' success recently. And I'm just not sure why it hasn't been done yet, but I thought I'd just throw that wrinkle out there.
I'm sure it's because of the timeline. Ever since we finished playing, it's like you're getting ready for the combine and then and free agency and the draft. And I have to imagine it's more of they're just waiting till they have a moment to breathe and hammer that out, because George Payton hasn't really been available. I mean, he has been knee deep in all this ever since January and before, probably.
Yeah, once business affairs over at Dove Valley gets through all these undrafted free agent contracts, they're not going to have anything to do. They can start looking at George Payton.
Yeah, I really believe, because now it's kind of downtime a little bit for them. So I'm sure that's what they're waiting for.
Lori, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say maybe that's it, but I don't know. This is going to sound maybe sappy or like weird, but like you make time for things that important, in my opinion. Like making sure that your good GM sticks around. Like I know that George is busy. I mean, he's been on the grind for months now, and obviously Penner, he's a busy guy too. There's a lot of busy people, but when it comes to like figuring out who's going to help lead your team for the next couple of years, like, do you want George around, like, or not? Like, I think it would be relatively easy.
It could also be that they have this, like they really have done this, but they don't want to. They're not going to announce it in the midst of all this other news,
Right.
Or they just want to see how he did. They don't want him to get the contract.
His laurels.
And you're really goofed this year, George. You're done. Yeah, Georgie. No more,
I feel like the Penners have been such good owners, and they're involved, and they know business, and they Greg Penner has really gotten into football. Not that he didn't know it before, but I think he's really gotten into Broncos football. And I imagine that they've probably in the background, they probably have been working on that and being, they're able to keep these different things going. But George Payton has been just so focused on free agency and the draft. I imagine that doing that other thing, there wasn't a need to have it done before any of this. There wasn't a need to announce it. But I, just like you say, I really like, you see, it looks like a very good working relationship between all three of them. I can't imagine they're not going to. I'm sure it's more of a timing or a presentation kind of thing.
Yeah, like the Holy Triumvirate. They're like the football gridiron equivalent of the band Rush.
I mean, it's really remarkable, I think, where we've come from since, it took a little bit, and we kind of added these pieces. Obviously, we get George Payton, and there's the screw up with Hackett, but they corrected it, and there's screw up with the Russell Wilson, but they got a guy who could correct that. And then they bring in the Penners, and it's just like, I just feel like our franchise at the Broncos brass level is so strong. It seems like the best in the NFL. So we're so lucky. I think, we're only going to be.
Yeah, to turn things around with Bo as a rookie. Quarterback. Coming in a couple of years ago, like to do that. And not having a lot of picks to fortify your team and just banking on free agency. They invested in the trenches and all that sort of stuff. But going from where they were at to where they're at now, what's this going to be, year 4 of Sean Payton, the 4th year with them together? Like, that's pretty darn impressive. So, I think the future is bright for Broncos country, even brighter now after a successful 3-day draft extravaganza. So I'm excited to see how it all plays out. Excited to get a little bit of break from talking the draft too. I love getting on the podcast with you guys and talking draft. But, man, I don't know what, like 40 articles this week, the podcast and the reports and all that jazz. I appreciate all those who are out there listening right now and coming to the Mile High Broncos podcast for all your draft coverage and everything Broncos related. And to all those that have shared or read the articles on social media, stuff like that. I truly appreciate it. I like reading I don't respond to you guys all the time because I'm usually busy writing, working my other job, but I do read the comments. So it's really nice to see how much you guys care and are interested in the draft. Like, everybody loves the draft. There's probably a couple people out there that don't like it, but it's an exciting time. It brings everybody together. I
want to say, before I came to Mile High Report, I didn't think about the draft was cool. I kind of read about it afterwards, but I didn't know how cool it was. And so shout out to you and Scotty in particular for all the work you do. Like, that is an amazing amount of research and writing that you do for months. And so you couldn't have timed that better, Jess.
It's just been a hobby of mine for a long time. I remember, screaming at, like, I had a 27-inch CRT TV, which was big back in the day when I was a teenager. Like, those were like
Weighed
100
3,000 pounds.
Right. My dad had got it for me, and then obviously I'm watching the NFL draft, and obviously the Broncos needed a running back, and Steven Jackson out of Oregon State was right there for the taking. But Mike Shanahan, like, there was no way in hell that he was going to take a first-round running back. But I was like,
yeah,
this is the year that you need to do it. Took DJ Williams instead, and it kind of sort of worked out. I mean, DJ, I think this is kind of a little bit of a draft lore thing. He was kind of like a victim of circumstance. They asked him to play weak side linebacker, Mike linebacker, strong side linebacker. He never had a chance to just sit down and let it rip, just because there were so many injuries and so many coaching changes and scheme changes and things like that. Like, I don't think he ever realized his potential as a pro just because he was asked to do much in so many different things. But I remember that. I remember the Broncos, Mike Shanahan and his ego taking Maurice Clarett instead of Marion Barber with their compensatory pick in the third round, stuff like that. We joke all the time on staff. I mean, I love John Elway as a player. Like, he is obviously one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But when it came to talent evaluation and hitting the draft, he extended like 8 players out of the 100 picks that he had in his decade as like a GM or whatever. So it's just one of those things. Like, there's so much history tied to it. And I think we were joking on the last podcast. Like, I just turned 39 the other day, and I still feel young. But the fact that some of the legends that we've all watched growing up have kids in the league, like right now, and then 10 years from now when we're doing this podcast show, like, the kids' kids are going to have kids in the league. It's like, oh man, like, we're getting really old. So it's just one of those things to watch it, like, things change organically over the years and how the process has changed. I mean, writing on a piece of paper, man, like, I still do this for a lot of my reports. Like, most people don't do that right now. But like AI and all this crazy stuff, I'm like, cool, I can go on my computer and pop it's pretty interesting. So yeah, I appreciate you guys for being a part of the team, and thank you for, giving me some praise there. I mean, it's fun. Like, it's not even like it's work, but it's because it's fun. But yeah, it takes a lot of time. I mean, I can't imagine being like a real NFL scout and doing this all the time, being on the road, traveling and doing it like 24/7. Like, that's got to be exhausting.
Yeah, you could. If you're getting paid for it, you could. That's the only thing you have to do. You're doing all that work without the traveling and without the pay.
And most importantly,
since I'm a single guy with no kids, but for the guys that have to be on the road and women that are out there and stuff, have families, like, that would be tough to be away from home that much. So
yeah, all right.
Yeah, but if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. That's what they say, I guess. I don't know.
My biggest takeaway from this has been that we can go ahead and book you for the draft podcasts in 2036. So we are looking forward to seeing you then. But until then, let's stick a pin in it until I don't know. Maybe we'll get together again here soon. Maybe there's still some excitement left to go. I mean, maybe this Aqib Talib thing will finally materialize.
maybe the real surprise is Aqib Talib is coming back to play for the Denver.
Yes, right. That's right.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, for Chris Hart and Lori Lattimore-Volkman of Mile High Report, I am Jess Place. Thank you for listening, and be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and go over and see us on YouTube at MH Broncos Pods, plural, both words, Broncos and Pods. So subscribe to our stuff. It's awesome. We do this all the time, and we have a good time doing it. So if you want to come have a good time with us, you know where to find us. Till next time, go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.